MyFlashStore.net, the internet's #1 beat marketplace.
Curtis King with 2 S's, beats.com.
Who am I? I am Curtis King. I'm an artist and a producer. I'm from Southern California. I got my start as an artist, and I was introduced to the leasing business by a guy that I went to school with, and he wanted to charge me $300 for a lease. And I said, I'm in high school, sir, and I can't afford that right now. And it was honestly the thing that jump-started my career. The first thing that I actually got into was a video game called MTV Music Generator on PlayStation. And that's really how I got my production start. And honestly, just a guy that loves soul samples. I love hip hop. I love trap beats. I just love making great music that people can have an attachment to and they can have a feeling towards. So that's really my biggest motivation. To explain, first, I'm an artist. Being a producer really became a necessity because, like I said, I couldn't afford the leasing prices at that time, which now I wish we were living in those times, because obviously those are a lot more expensive leases at that time. But just like in any industry, the business changed. And as an artist, I needed beats. I was in a group originally, and there was really a need to make beats. And so I sort of became an artist and producer, not by choice, but really out of necessity. And along the way, because I'm such a perfectionist, there was no way that I was just going to be okay at one and then, great at another. So I really pushed myself 110% to be, when I'm a rapper, I wanted to be better than any other rapper. When I was a producer, I wanted to compete with just any other producer. And I would always hold myself to a certain bar, and I would say things, like my favorite producers were Timbaland and Ninth Wonder and Kanye West. And I said, if they were in the room right now with me, would they approve of this? And I would always try to do 110% better than that. So that was always my motivation. I look at music as therapy. Music is honestly therapy for me, and knowing that music has took me through some of my toughest times, knowing that I'm now responsible for taking other people to their toughest times, that's honestly my biggest inspiration. Also knowing that I can support my family with this, knowing that I can make a career at this, knowing that I could wake up today and have an interview with My Flash Store and not have to worry about going to work today. Like, that's, to me, these are blessings that I don't overlook. I actually went to go talk to my tax lady a few days ago, and she looked at how much I made off of My Flash, and she said, you need to understand that you are blessed. And I said, never a day goes by that I take this for granted. I never take this for granted, because so honestly, being able to get up and have the life that I've always wanted to have is my biggest inspiration. When I'm making music, the first place I start, especially if I'm making music for other artists, if I'm making music for my website, the first thing I start at is, how can I make the artist that's going to be on this sound amazing? We don't, us being leasing producers, we don't always have the luxury of knowing who's going to be an artist on there, but we do know that we have to put our best foot forward. So my mentality is, what instruments or what mood am I going to start with? I think it's very important to know what mood you're going to start with. A lot of times producers just throw a bunch of sounds together, and it kind of like, it's almost like scribbling on a piece of paper and then saying, okay, I guess this is going to be a drawing of, a building. I try not to do that. I try to go in there with a specific plan and say, okay, this song is going to be a very sad song, and as I start to put it together, I think just instinct is what leads me to the choices in my instruments. Knowing that I want this to be something that an artist can sound amazing on. I want an artist that lives in a place where you don't really have access to production like this, and he can blow his friends away, or he can go to an open mic and just blow everybody away. So my motivation is to make sure that I'm serving, whoever it is that chooses to invest in my production. The equipment that I use in my studio, I'm probably a lot different than a lot of producers in that I don't have a bunch of expensive stuff sitting around. I've been using the bare essentials since I started, and I take pride in that. I have had access to other things like an MPC and all of these things, but I ended up selling those for some studio monitors. So right now I have the Rokit 5 studio monitors. I have the Focusrite 2i2 interface or sound card. And I have a MIDI keyboard, and the most important thing that I have is this laptop that I'm speaking on now. This is my baby. This is my child. Is this laptop right here? I have an Asus laptop, and has it maxed out on the RAM so that I can handle all my contact players and Omnispheres and this stuff like that. You know what? The majority of my equipment per se is probably weighted in my drum kits and in my VSTs and into my actual software that I use. I use FL Studio, which is what I've always used, and I'm still using that now. I use another program called Adobe Audition to kind of put things together and do my mixing and mastering. But for the most part, I keep it very simplistic. I try to make sure that, I have it to where it can be mobile and I'm able to be flown out. Like a few weeks ago, I was flown out to Minnesota to, do some work, and just think of that, like, something that started in my grandmother's basement. Now I'm being flown all over the US to do what I would do for fun anyways, and that's something that I always live by, is that, three things I think determine if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. One, what comes easy to you but harder for others? Two, what would you do and do it for free? And then three, how can you give back? So this is what the music is doing for me, and this is why I keep everything so simplistic in terms of equipment. It's so important to be able to just pick up, and if somebody says, hey, I have this amount of money for you, can you show up to this session? And you look at your watch and you say, well, I guess I have time to pack it up and put it in my backpack, as opposed to somebody having to pack up a big SSL board. I just, and then you figure out that there's a lot of software to kind of compensate for a lack of hardware. And I've always, even before I started making, money at this business, always leaned towards what's the most efficient way that I can maximize what I have, as opposed to getting stuff that I don't need right now. How can I maximize what I have? And then, what's the boundaries I can push with it? So that even goes to when I used to use little cheap 80s Casio keyboards just to try to get a sound out and just EQ it and try to make it sound perfect. I think it makes you appreciate what you have even more. Honestly, the business is number one priority, because there's always a customer that needs an email. There's always a customer that needs me to, confirm something on my website, whether it's the pricing, whether it's, there's a lot more things to keep you busy. The creative side, I just love it. I just love to create beats. It's something I love to do. So it doesn't really require too much of my attention. But when I do focus in, I try to turn my phone off. I try to turn social media off. I don't have any cable in my home office. I try to make sure that I'm literally focused in on that. I even have a system when it comes to that, to where, I'll do sometimes between 30 minutes and an hour of focused work, and then I walk out the room. I just got to walk out the room, get away from the music, and then come back. And it literally, me doing that is like me collaborating with a new producer every time, because you get fresh ears and you get to leave the room, and you're exposed to things like outside, which a lot of producers, they don't get a lot of outside. They're usually in the studio. But the business end takes a lot of my time, because honestly, if I don't, I put myself in a position to where if I don't take care of my business, I don't have a place to stay. I don't have, I can't pay my bills. I can't keep the lights on. So I think that's the greatest pressure that any producer can have on them, is to really take that leap of faith. I used to work 4 years at Quiznos, the sandwich place, and that was not fun. That was not by choice that I stayed there for 4 years, but I learned a lot from there. And I always said, every day I left there, I said, I'm this is not my career. I cannot do the traditional 9 to 5. I want to make my own hours. I needed to determine the type of lifestyle that I wanted to have first, and then I think that the career that I'm in now is just conducive to that. I think that as long as there's work to be done, there's no time for me to sit here and think about having a beat block, or, like how writers have writer's block. I just don't have the time to do it, and honestly, like I said, the biggest pressure of having to pay bills, and don't get me wrong, there's times where I can't come up with an idea of what to produce next for the website. That happens a lot, but at the same time, I feel like if you continue to keep moving, there's a quote that says successful people continue to move. And I think that as long as I continue to move, is continue to listen to new music and kind of get some inspiration, continue to put fingers to keys. I don't really have too many opportunities to, sit here and kind of mope and be like, I really wish I could think of something to do today. I think it's also important for me to wake up at 5 a.m. every morning. I particularly wake up at 5 in the morning. Everybody doesn't have to do it, but I do it because it gets me up in the morning. Before I even lay my feet down to the ground, I give grace and thankfulness for being alive. I go drink water, and then I go to my home office and I just basically make a list of the things to do during the day. And something I found about making lists is that when you make a list, not only does it put it into your subconscious, but it also your mind starts to go to work of how we can make these things happen. So if you get up every morning and you say, okay, I'm going to make 3 R&B beats, 2 hip hop beats, or, I don't make that many beats in a day, but I'm just saying, if you make a list of specific sounds that you want to go for, it'll make your job so much easier. Even if you can set it out for the week, you won't have to deal with things like, not having motivation or, inspiration. But we're human beings and we have our times, we have our downtime. But I think the thing that keeps us on track is, having friends that hold us accountable, having lists that hold us accountable, and all those things, honestly, will keep you on track. I used to think it was, provide beats for everybody and, make the best beats you can, and that's what it's going to be. And that was the complete wrong answer. What I learned is 2 important factors. One, you got to figure out what your demographic is. You got to figure out who your audience is, and you got to figure out what exactly they want from you. For me, for the last year and a half, what's crazy is my first year with My Flash, I had an outstanding year. Oh my God, it was outstanding. I couldn't believe I had made that much amount of money. And then the second year, huge drop off. And I was looking around like, oh my God, what happened? Like, is it something I said? But what I learned was that, I sent a survey out to my mailing list, and I suggest that every producer have a mailing list. That is your saving grace. I sent a survey out where I basically asked their age, I asked, where they're from, I asked if they're single, I asked what's their highest level of education, I asked, their favorite artists at the time, I asked their favorite genres. And I came to find out for the last year and a half, I was sending out trap beats to an audience where only 7% of them wanted it. So it was an epiphany, and they wanted 70% of them wanted hip hop. Another 60% of them, because you can make multiple choices, wanted just traditional hip hop records, and it just blew my mind. So knowing your audience, and also too, you have to be a giver. You have to be somebody that thinks about things, not about what you want. Obviously, we're the producer, we have to make the decisions about instruments, but it really should be about your customer. It should be about how you can make that customer, sound amazing, because the more amazing that you can make him sound, the more business you're going to get because of it. So not serving yourself first, serving others, and making sure that, you are supplying what they need, and not what you just want to supply everybody. If you do something for everybody, then you're honestly doing something for nobody at all. I actually have a marketing background, so, and it's crazy because I've been learning. I took marketing courses in 2006, and not till about 2012 that I have the sense enough to put it in action. But I understood the principles, but it's really hard to make the transition sometimes, to learn all of these different ideas and then put it into your work. That's why now what I do is on my YouTube channel, I actually do something called Artist Marketing 911 and Producer Motivation 911. And basically it's bridging the gap between a lot of these marketing terms that, the average artist and producer may not understand, but they apply so strongly to our field. And if you just have somebody that can put it in very simple language for you, I think that, you'll have a lot more success in your career. So if you go to my YouTube, it's Curtis King TV. I try to provide all that information and just be as helpful as I can. I really appreciate the emails that you guys send too. Oh my God, there's so much stuff. I'm like, finally somebody puts detail into converting, customers. I think that's so important, because other people who send, quote unquote marketing information send you stuff like 7 things you shouldn't do on Twitter. And it's like, so much fluff, but you guys send so much value. So I appreciate it. The pivotal moment in my career was when I met another one of, your producers on the website, named Awesome Beats. I've known Awesome Beats for a few years now, and I had no idea what exactly he did for a living. I know he leased beats, but I didn't know how much it was a business for him. And really a pivotal moment for me was when, my fiance and I, my stepson, were living with a friend of ours, and we had to be out in a month. And mind you, I was struggling to sell beats the traditional way I was doing it. I was doing it through email, and I had never heard of My Flash Store at that time. And I made a phone call, really out of desperation. You know, I wanted to figure out if there's a way that I can really set myself into this business. And he introduced it to me, and he allowed me to basically kind of get a window into his business. And he taught me what the importance of My Flash Store, and he taught me the importance of, you know, having it linked up to my SoundClick and all these different things. And honestly, his selflessness is honestly what gave me a window into this. And then from there, when I saw my first beat sale and I saw My Flash Store pop up in my email as you have an order confirmed, oh my God, I was ready to play ball. So from there, I just continued to invest into my website. I went from having I think it was only 25 beats that you can have at one time if you pay for the lowest account. And then, you know, I started making money, and I was like, it's time to invest into that other one. And I put the 50 beats up and eventually went to the unlimited. So, yeah, that was a really pivotal moment in terms of changing things. And you really don't find that other producers are that selfless. You know, a lot of them are really about themselves. And that's another reason why now I'm so motivated to help producers. One of my biggest goals is to help as many producers quit their job so they can do this for a living, because there's so many talented producers who are struggling. I know, you know, folks that are nominated for Grammys that are still having their struggles, you know, and I want producers to see it for what it really is and look at themselves as a business and an entrepreneur. And I think that other producers are going to see that. I think the more that I shine as an example, and I have opportunities, like even I got approached to write a book at the beginning of January. So I'm going to write a book called The Prosperous Producer. These opportunities wouldn't have been here had people not seen me as somebody that's a giver and somebody that has valuable information. So I think that, you know, when producers understand that giving value to other folks that look up to you is not just about giving money. It's not just that. It's honestly about giving something that somebody values. If you're able to do that, you'll be such an asset to your network that you'll never have a day where you go without a sale, or at least somebody sharing your website. I primarily find my customers through advertising on SoundClick. That was how I initially did it. I initially did it through banner ads. I initially did it through, you know, talking to people online and sharing it through all my social networks. I also would find other hip hop websites that said things like, hey, if you want to put your banner up, you know, it's $25 for a month. And I would just go ahead and do it, because, you know, you want to find the places that customers like yours will basically be at, you know. And a majority of artists look for other artists. They look at blog posts. They're looking for blogs that post their music. So that's a lot of their audience on these blog sites are other artists. So I needed to be in front of them, and I needed to present myself in a way that they knew exactly what to get from me. I didn't say, hey, I'm Curtis King Beats and I have beats. No, it was, I'm Curtis King Beats and I have hip hop beats. I have trap beats, EDM trap beats, even more specific than that, so that you know exactly what you're getting from me. And I think that really building up that relationship, and then treating 10 customers with the importance of one, I think that concept is something that carries even now, as, you know, I've had, you know, thousands of customers since I've started. I treat every single customer as if they're my first customer, you know, and I treat them like they're my first 10. And those first 10, they know I appreciated them so much. And I would, you know, check up on them and make sure that the beats were okay and the stems were okay. But I think that really making an investment into the people, really making sure that you offer more value than just your beats. Even my email list, I don't send out email lists that say, hey, new beats for sale. I used to do that, but I don't send out emails that say, hey, new beats for sale. I say things like, oh my God, there's a chance that SoundCloud might shut down. You guys might want to read this. I want them to give my emails and say, oh my God, it's always valuable when Curtis sends me an email. I have ones like, you know, how to build your fan base up. And this is things that I've actually researched and that I know about, and that I have, you know, sort of proof in my own pudding. But that's really how I accumulate my customers, is really, you know, continuing through that advertisement and making sure that I take care of the ones that I do have, because what happens is, we take care of them and they have a great experience, they'll refer you. So word of mouth is huge when it comes to that. As of right now, where I'm at with my beat selling, I'm getting up still at 5 in the morning, and I'm still making a list of things to do. I'm doing a lot more custom orders right now, and I'm actually getting ready to really hone down and, you know, not focus on anything else except for adding more beats to my Mod Flash store, because this is probably the most crucial time of the year for producers. This is the time where it's tax season. This is the time where we see the most of our sales. So if we see the bulk of our sales now, we need to provide as many options in our particular niche as possible. So my main focus is making sure that I'm completing these custom orders, but at the same time providing new beats for my website. Obviously, through that last survey, I found out that I need to be making more hip hop beats. So these next few weeks are going to probably be the most hippity hoppity weeks in Curtis King history. But I'll be doing that. I'll continue to serve my customers. I'll continue to make more marketing videos and producer motivation videos. I'll continue to finish this book up, which, you know, I never saw myself writing a book, at least not this early. But, you know, I'm blessed. I'm thankful for that opportunity, but honestly, I'm going to continue to motivate other producers and continue to support my family off of this. And, you know, I'm very grateful for Mod Flash store for giving producers like us an opportunity, a clear opportunity, and not trying to, you know, be like a lot of other websites that, you know, really take advantage of producers. So as of right now, I'm not chasing any placements. I'm serving my customers at CurtisKingBeats.com. For producers that are just starting out, I think the biggest advice that I can give to you is give yourself time. And first book that you probably want to read, and I think I read it by chance, is Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. When you read that book, it'll make you look at money in a whole different way. Because honestly, when I talk to young producers and they start off, you know, making beats, their biggest worry is how much money it's going to cost, as opposed to how much money they're going to make. And I think that it's a cultural thing sometimes. I think that it's a fear thing sometimes, but you have to look at this money like it's paper. It's literally paper, and it will come back. The more that you're able to look at it like that and look at it as these are investments that you're making into your career, the easier this transition will be. But you can't be afraid of spending money on yourself. You can't be afraid of spending money, you know, to get your Mod Flash store account. You can't be afraid of spending money to get your VIP SoundClick. You can't be afraid of spending money, you know, and it's not a whole lot of money, to be honest with you. You just have to go for it. You have to be able to go 7 days and put up, you know, ads on whatever website that you're referring to. But you got to go for it. You got to ask. You got to get a couple no's. You know, you got to fail fast. The faster you fail, the quicker you get to success. So that's my biggest advice. Have patience with yourself. Don't feel like you have to keep up with the times and you have to make trap beats like everybody else. Unless you love it, you know, if you don't love it, don't do it. Find what you love and become that one producer that provides that to his customers. And you'll be surprised. You can have a customer base of 2,000 people that are more value to you than somebody who has a customer base of 200,000. You know, you honestly need only 1,000 people who make up 20% of your overall fan base that will buy 80% of your beats. Just 20%. You do that and you find 1,000 people, you'll make at least $100,000 a year. So, you know, have patience with yourself and understand it's a process. Read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Just continuously read and listen to podcasts. One of my favorites is Entrepreneur on Fire, and understand that there's a lot of hip hop rules that don't apply to any other business and they're holding you back. So don't allow those to hold you back. You know, spend time with your family. Don't get so wrapped up in work and business that you forget about the people that you're actually doing this for. Take care of your health, take care of yourself, make sure that if you can't get into a gym regimen, I get up at 5 in the morning, 7 in the morning, I'm going over to the gym and I'm coming back home, and it gives me so much energy as I make these beats. Make a list of things to do every day, because you'll get into this minuscule busy work and you'll look up and it's 11 p.m. after you've worked 10 hours and you'll be like, what did I get accomplished towards my goal? Make a list, stay to your list, have accountability. Don't share your dreams with everybody, and just, you know, love what you do, and this will all come together for you. I promise you that.